All right, welcome back. Those images of governors marching on the streets of Nairobi, who would have thought? But this is really about that division, about revenue. Not much revenue going on to the counties now, but a lot of divisions. Let's listen to what the COG chair, Governor of Kakamega, Wycliffe Oparanya, had to say about this standoff.
Devolved governance is being attacked by denying county governments their much needed resources. The National Treasury continues to hold counties hostage by always deviating from Commission of Revenue allocation recommendation and by constantly denying disbursement of funds to counties.
Francis, I'll start with you because you spend a lot of time in Parliament with all these people and governors and all this. I mean, it's quite interesting that we see this argument come up every year, while we actually have the Commission of Revenue allocation that says this is the amount that should go to the counties. Then there is this endless argument that goes on between the two houses of Parliament. This year, of course, it's gone a notch higher. It's going to the courts. But what is really at issue? Why can't we just agree on how much money needs to go to the counties?
Because money is a contentious issue. The more you have, the more you want. And this also applies in our counties and in our national government. There's also the question of how true are the leaders in implementation of devolution? Is the national government really keen on effective implementation of devolution? That is a fundamental question that we must ask at all times. Because if all these resources belong to Wanjiku, if all these resources are meant to assist Mwananchi, why would there be a struggle? Why would there be a quarrel over who gets what? I thought ultimately the two levels of government should agree that these resources are meant for Mwananchi, so let them be served best by whoever is able to serve them best. Number one. Number two, I think there's also an element of dishonesty in both levels of government, because the national government is truly and obviously holding on to some resources that ought to go to the county governments. On the other hand, the county governments are asking for more, but there's also a question of accountability and prudent management of the resources that they have gotten. So those two questions must be asked side by side. But be it as it may, the National Assembly and the Senate should not be quarreling over how much money should go to county governments, because I thought the Constitution is very clear on how these resources are supposed to be divided. And if there is any quarrel, the Constitution provides mechanisms of resolving that quarrel. But more fundamentally, there is a very important body structure called the summit that sits the president and the governors. Even when they disagree at all levels on anything and everything, at that level I don't think they should disagree. But the question is, how many times has the summit met? And probably isn't this the reason why we will see these persistent quarrels until I don't know when?
Yvonne.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Constitution anticipated consensus, you know, in this matter, that there wouldn't be. I don't think they ever anticipated that there would be push and pull like this. But let me tell you some of the problems.
But at least they created
the mediation panel. There's organizations
what I think they didn't imagine is that mediation could also fail.
But here's another problem, and I have with conflating a number of issues. So yes, there is graft, both at the national and at the county government. But when you have the majority of National Assembly, majority leader in the National Assembly saying, oh, but you know, it's sort of playing, you know, the carrot and stick, but you've been bad little children and you've been naughty with the money that we've given you and we need you to count, that's a totally separate issue. And there are mechanisms. There's the county assembly and there's the EACC and there's a number of others that can be used to justify it. And there's also a process that if you find your county has not, I think it's Article, what, 225, or is it? That says, you know, we can suspend some of the funds to the counties. So I don't think at this point bringing in the issue of accountability is something, it seems a little sneaky in my view. Give the money, there is the methods to account for it. That's number one. And then I think there's also the other problem about this becoming the bigger issue about who supports devolution and who doesn't. There's a number of steps I think we missed during that transition authority. Have we costed all of the functions of that have been devolved. Therefore, do we know how much, the counties need for health, for early childhood education, and for a number of these other issues? Water. I mean, if you take a look at the push and pull with water, the water companies that are still owning it, there's still quite a bit of push and pull, even in terms of health. So health is devolved, with the exception of the referral hospitals. But, the national government is still keeping a huge chunk of that amount of money. That is what this is all about, and that's why it's now bubbling to the surface. The other thing that the National Assembly and the National Treasury keep saying, oh, well, you know what? We've in fact exceeded the 15% that is required in the Constitution. It's 30.5%. But of what? The latest approved audited budgets by Parliament. Right now, those latest ones are what? The financial year 2014, 2015? Yeah. That's 4 financial years ago. What was the budget then? What is the budget now? What is the revenue that was raised then? What is it now? So there's a few dishonest issues in this conversation, and which is why it's been bubbling year after year. For sure, we have now gone beyond mediation. I think 2015 and 2017, is it mediation, sort of solved this issue? But these are the reasons at the heart of this, and that is why it'll keep coming up year after year after year, unless these
Maybe
issues
someone should include it in constitution
referendum.
But Linus, is that a fair line to be drawn, that let's use this now to see who is pro or against devolution from where you sit?
I think that's the shape it will take. And Yvonne says the Constitution anticipated consensus. I think the Constitution also presumed that the houses will be peopled by adult, responsible leaders capable of walking through national issues in a serious way. Something good that has happened, first of all, to both houses, is this matter is going to court. Let the court interpret Article 95, Sub-Article 4 on the role of the National Assembly, which says that in 4A says, determines the allocation, the National Assembly determines the allocation of national revenue between the levels of government as provided in Part 4 of Chapter 12. B, appropriates funds for expenditure by the national government and other national state organs. That I think we have done. But you look at 96 again on the role of the Senate, 96.3, the Senate determines the allocation of national revenue among counties as provided in Article 217 and exercises oversight over national revenue allocated to county government. I think it's been mentioned before that there are few lapses in the current constitution because it tends to create a flat structure that makes both houses sort of equal. And this opens room for this kind of conflict that we are seeing. You see the National Assembly actually asserting itself as the main house. And you've seen them saying the Senate is Nyumba ya Wazee, trying to say that this is not necessary. And some have gone to the extent of saying that the Senate should be abolished. Finally, Joe, on this same point, I think this is an indictment on the leadership of one Justin Muturi, the Speaker of National Assembly, and the leadership of one Kenneth Lusaka, the Speaker of the Senate. The two are coming off as bystanders. Look at where are they in all this. If you look at Nancy Pelosi, this is the person they call their colleague when they go out there. Where is the leadership in the National Assembly when it comes to
but they're very happy to dismiss each other publicly, but then they're not.
Internally, they have failed. They like coming to the camera to say a few things, but internally, what have they been able to do? They have not been able to shepherd the house, their houses towards a consensus.
Yes, Wanjiku. Yes. I was waiting to give you the last take on this one.
Yes, because I
am told you spend most of your life doing this.
Okay, well, yeah, good part of it at least. No, because the thing is, when you're talking about division of revenue and the issue of, which is the
upper house,
lower house, then you're missing the picture. Because Article 6.2 is about this consultative government. So we have a devolution that's based on dialogue, consultation and mutual, they need to work together. So it's not based on majoritarianism. It's not based on kind of strong arm politics that we're used to. So it's not that we don't have the problem is not having an upper house. Actually, the problem we have is a lack of a constitutional culture, because this constitution actually never anticipated a situation where mediation could fail on a matter that is so well articulated under Article 203, because there are certain things that have to be met.
Yes.
Revenue is raised by the national government. The national government has the strongest or the widest revenue raising mandates. County governments have more limited revenue raising mandates. Yet counties have wider expenditure mandates because they're the ones delivering services. So it's expected national government has better capacity, wider mandates, they'll raise more money, and that money then will be shared based on Article 203. 203 says, of course, public debt must be paid. Of course, the needs of national government, security issues, foreign affairs must be dealt with. The needs of counties must also be addressed. Inclusion must be addressed. Now, the breakdown has come here. And that is why the Council of Governors went to court in 2016. Went to court and raised the issue of what is this thing called national interest, because every year the Treasury, which is now being called the Imperial Treasury, because it doesn't listen to the Commission on Revenue Allocation, doesn't listen to Senate, doesn't listen to the the Intergovernmental Budget and Economic Committee, has used the definition of national interest to hold on to money. So I don't agree that the problem is gaps in the Constitution. You can't prescribe everything. That is not a good way to do law. In fact, there was criticism of the Constitution as being a little bit over prescriptive, and also very codified, because it's written in a lot of values issues. But it was written because of the kind of politics we have. And despite a very strong Constitution, we are still seeing Parliament and Treasury violating the Constitution, every day. And if you look at the number of cases that have gone to court around unconstitutional bills, unconstitutional motions, then yes, I agree, it's an indictment on the leadership of the National Assembly, not so much the Senate. Because the Senate has done their part, by the way, in terms of, they have a few laws they put forward that are questionable. But for the most part, they've held their part in terms of protecting the final line of county governments. They've never come out this strongly. Actually, we are very happy. The Senate is now, the Senate has been a bit jealous of governors. Senators have been battling with governors. Somehow, in the past 3 months, they've woken up and realized what they did today is what they're supposed to have done all along, which is to protect counties. Now, I disagree completely that there seems to be an intent to implement devolution, and that national government has stopped pretending that they are, defending devolution. They do not even try. If you look at the way they craft their laws, the way they craft their policies, it's national government and devolution as a footnote. They develop legislation the way they used to when we were under decentralized government before 2010. They hold on money the way they used to before 2010. They are very paternalistic. They imagine the revenue collected belongs to the national government to be given out as favors. So there has been no attempt, and somehow the national government has gotten courage, or their hands are too tied because of their debt commitments, that they have decided they are actually the bone of contention at present is something like 8B. That is what has
11 billion.
It's 11 billion that has stopped the division of revenue process. So the big offense, my last point, and sorry, I've gone on, last point, the big offense here was this. Division of revenue bill failed. The process failed. Mediation failed. Constitution didn't anticipate that. But the spirit of the Constitution is that unless you divide money vertically, you can't divide it horizontally. And unless you do those two, unless you do this process, you can't then appropriate money for the national government. So actually what we should be facing is a shutdown.
Yeah.
But national government, in passing and assenting to the appropriations.
Yes.
Want to say, counties mumekata. This 11 billion, basi. Kaeni hapo. As we are going on, we are going to go ahead and implement our project.
What about CRA? Where does CRA come in?
Very good point. CRA, like South Africa, where we borrowed a lot of the constitution, has an advisory role. Why was it given an advisory role? Because the people's representatives, the elected representatives of the people, are the ones who then need to come through this consensus. That's why it goes through CRA. They have all the data, give their recommendations, and then Parliament is supposed to, Treasury first of all is supposed to take those on board, and then Parliament and Senate are supposed to deliberate. So they're supposed to do some fine-tuning. So first of all, there are two things here. If you had attended the Senate hearing on the division of revenue, it was almost jocular or very tragic, because civil society, the Senate, all the actors were on the same page, making recommendations that were then ignored by Treasury and the National Assembly. And the complaint actually on the floor, everyone stood up and said exactly the same thing. So National Assembly is not listening to advice, and unless you put caps, percentage caps in the Constitution, there is no way that money is going to then get down.
In fact, Joe, I look at it this way. You see, the Senate is currently debating its parallel division of revenue bill. Actually, they began debating it today. And you see, it will still go to the National Assembly for concurrence. Yep. The National Assembly will next week, I think, when they come back to the House, they will be debating the republished division of revenue bill by the Budget Committee. So you can imagine that very untidy scenario where these guys have their bill, these ones have their bill, and once they finish, hizo bills zitakutana katikati going to each other's house, which is not supposed to be the right way. Ordinarily, you would have expected there will be some tidiness, number one, and two, even a process beforehand where guys can agree, and so that you take a bill to the house that will be easily accessible, easily agreeable to all the houses.
By the way, debate is not bad. Democracy is about debate. It's expected. So whatever the Constitution says, you expect a debate. But then there are some things that are sacred. The Constitution, the letter, and the spirit are sacred. Correct. So the debate should be within that. There are no two bills. Right now, there is no bill. Actually, right now, we are in limbo. Because if they follow the, and it's interesting that the Presidential Budget Unit and the Attorney General have both actually said that it was illegal for the president to assent to the Appropriations Act. So as of now, we have a government shutdown and we have no division of revenue bill because it was defeated. So what Senate have done is proactive, because this is a new constitution, this is a lacuna in the law, something must be done, somebody must come up with a bill. Senate has the power to originate bills. So nothing stops the National Assembly from then considering the bill. But the issue is it's the culture. Yeah. But I don't think they have a choice at this point, unless they want to violate the Constitution and turn it into a piece of paper instead of the supreme law of the land.
And by the way, talking about it, the confusion that you see in the National Assembly and the Senate over the division of revenue bill, or is it the division over revenue? There's also another division in Jubilee, and that is also being felt in the National Assembly and in the Senate, because some of the sentiments that you hear are also related to what we are hearing in Tangatanga and Keleweke and Wanjiku and the rest. Because ordinarily somebody would ask, if you have a house that has a majority of lawmakers from Jubilee, why wouldn't they agree on a basic thing like how much money should go to national government and county governments? Is it symptomatic, Linus, of the rifts in Jubilee?
I think it's a season and a generation of politicians and leaders, because there is a way everything seems to be not functioning right across. There's a certain drop in the quality of leadership right from the top and cascading down to the other levels. State House, Harambee House, they've not demonstrated leadership in the past few days. You look at the headlines, you look at the exchanges between people supposedly working in the presidency. It's looking very not nice. It's not looking very good. How do you expect a presidency that appears so divided, so incoherent, to start actually helping Parliament and the National Assembly and the Senate reach a resolution?
Joe, Tuju must go, Tuju must remain. If it is at that level, then you can expect it to cascade to almost everybody.
It's at the moment on free fall. I think if you look at every Sunday when they go to churches, they don't even seem able to agree which church to go to. I mean, the division is that bad. So you have a situation where the party secretary general is under siege, including from the very top, like from the deputy president saying this man is playing strategies to opposition party and that sort of thing. That is symptomatic of a party that is no longer even speaking to itself. And that kind of thing is dangerous, because right now there are many things going on in the country that will require the political class to rally together and for once do something that is beneficial to everyone. But what you see is people positioning themselves for whatever it is they're positioning themselves. There's a lot of brinkmanship. There is so much going on in the country that when you see the little conversations that happen between the two, or is it now three sides within the government, it is just unbelievable. I don't think that the divisions we've seen before came to this.
It was a third side, Joe?
There was Team Wanjiku.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there's also Team Embrace and
Yes.
I can
Keep up.
I know.
Keep up. I know. It's difficult to do so, but it's exactly what we're saying about what's happening at the national level. That is just cascading throughout everything. Here's a text from one of our viewers. It says, if the president himself doesn't sit in the cabinet, which some people allude to Rutophobia, it's obvious he may not have time for the governors and the so-called summit meetings. I mean, there's a breakdown of leadership and unity at that level, and that is just everywhere. Even in the National Assembly, in a place where you would imagine having the majority. It really is a tragedy when you take a look at it for Jubilee, that has an overwhelming majority in the National Assembly and in the Senate, but it's just unable to whip up the numbers even on issues like this. Like even on the issue of division of revenue, they are split right down the middle. I mean, Senator Samson Cherargei was in a soundbite saying, that the National Assembly is behaving in a centrist manner. And think about it, like they're on opposite sides of the divide on just about every issue, even in important issues such as this. So it's, this is the true example of
is a very sophisticated
yes, but it's also a very strong term.
It's not anything that we are saying.
It is not, yeah.
That would presuppose there's some sort of ideological premise on which people do their things.
But here's the thing, though. This just shows you how unity within the ruling party, or the majority, as we call it in this dispensation, is very important.
Wanjiru, when you have the president as the party leader, his deputy as the deputy party leader of the ruling party, and then you see the kind of splits that we are witnessing, then would it surprise anyone that we will see those splits even in Parliament, and especially on very, very critical national matters? Because as it stands now, you will hear counties saying we cannot be able to function. And you also get this feeling of, chukueni 316.5 billion, kama mtaki kwendeni.
I completely agree. We're in a situation, it feels like a free fall. Because the president hasn't spoken. Because what has happened is so significant.
Yeah.
When you're facing a shutdown, you have a bill that's illegal, and even your own advisors, your AG, well, not your AG because that's a shared institution, but the Attorney General, the Presidential Budget Unit, are saying that's an illegal action. You've been misadvised, number one, from some quarter to assent to this bill. And then the president doesn't speak. That's an abject lack of leadership that's very scary. But at the same time, it's an opportunity. And the National Assembly has been very opposed to devolution. They've been very hostile. They've passed terrible bills. And it's not a surprise that the National Assembly will be at loggerheads with the Senate because of this. The disappointing part is that the handshake completely muted, CORD. Because CORD, actually, if you look at their...
It became NASA,
yeah, sorry. Well, yeah. Well... it completely muted the history from CORD into the NASA.
Yes.
It completely muted that devolution agenda, because that's what they campaigned on. That's what they stood for. And historically, right through, if you look at Raila Odinga, wherever he's been, that was his big selling point. So when we've lost the opposition, and you have then NASA MPs voting against devolution, we are in chaos. The opportunity, though, comes for the governors. If the governors play their cards right, they are going to gain a lot of political mileage now, because they are running their counties. Some of them are doing a pretty good job, and they have the constituencies, and they are quite close to them. If they, and I don't agree, Linus, when you say it's that it can't just be the devolution. Devolution can't become the main agenda. I think they need to make devolution the agenda. Are you in? Are you out? Because everything the National Assembly has been doing has been to kill devolution. And devolution is very significant in terms of employment creation, in terms of service delivery, in terms of transforming this country. So if the governors are able to play that card properly and make devolution the issue, then Tanga Tanga and Kieleweke will actually become a nuisance, because that politics is actually more painful to Kenyans. Look at the cost of living.
Interesting. Wanjiru, there's Makali Mulu, the member of parliament for Kitui Central, who is also a member of the budget committee, is asking you, through me, to read Article 114, Sub-Article 3 of the Constitution on the Division of Revenue bill that is currently in the Senate. He says it is absolutely unconstitutional. Maybe we don't want to go back to that debate. But as we move on,
so well, they should have been the ones
next?
To table a bill then.
What next for Jubilee? Is it what you'd say, waiting to...
I think they need... just...
I was going to say waiting for Godot, but...
Yeah, they need to take the country seriously. It's the only government in office right now. And when you see the cabinet is not meeting, things like that, it speaks of people that are not taking their jobs seriously. Would you do that in the private sector? Would you do that in your own family? Is that the attitude you take towards running a space? I think the president needs to take the country seriously. When he delegates power to Fred Matiang'i, he should very well know that the deputy president cannot attend a meeting chaired by his junior. That is perpetuating a dysfunction. It is perpetuating a dysfunction, and I think what needs to happen is generally for Jubilee to take the leadership of the country as seriously as they did the elections.
Absolutely.
Yvonne, I want to pose this to you both. When the relationship is over or on the rocks, what do you do?
Well, one of the things you could do is pretend that everything is okay when we know it isn't.
It's Joe.
Which is what is happening now.
Joe?
You call the pastor.
Who is the pastor?
National prayer breakfast.
Listen, because we have to take this on, but I really need to read this from the minority leader in the National Assembly, John Buddy, who says, you have a team that is entirely leaning on one side. It is really annoying to see your panelists showing terrible hatred of the National Assembly.
Wanjiru should respond to that.
Yeah, so I mean, I just thought, we read everything on the show. Yes, but he says he wants us to next time invite others who can also speak for the National Assembly. So yes, I mean, on this show we read every feedback. So that's just it. Parliament, obviously.
Feeling
hatred. Where did the hatred come from? When you say violation of the Constitution, that's not hatred. That's, you're either with the Constitution or not. Yes.
So, but maybe
feel his pain.
Maybe he raises a valid point, especially when not necessarily of hatred, but when National Assembly members of Parliament say money bills, such as the Division of Revenue bill, should originate from them. That has been...
But we're in a situation where we can't even agree on what a money bill is.
Right.
That is now the contention.
There's a lacuna. We are in no man's land. We are facing government shutdown. So where's the leadership? So the question Buddy should be saying is, where is the leadership? At least Senate have done something. Maybe it's not anticipated in law, but the president hasn't spoken. The National Assembly are sitting on their laurels. They've refused with 11 billion shillings. They want to shut the government down for 11 billion shillings. I mean, they're passing night allowances for themselves. They are in court with the SRC. We are,
that's a lot of hatred.
Yeah.
It is a lot of hatred. And all these truths
and he continues to text. It is simplistic to assume that defending devolution is synonymous with allocating more funds to the counties. We could go on and on back and forth, but really, Minority Leader, we thank you for texting and indeed watching and your feedback and for watching. But we really do have to take this home.
By the way, it's been really confusing watching Mbadi lately. Minority or Majority Leader, I can't tell the difference. They now speak from the same position.
Perhaps we should have him here next time.
We should.
So that we can have this back and forth
the
live here.
handshake brought many things, good and bad.
Okay.
You want to quickly, for a minute, talk about the handshake as your final word?
Yes. Well, no, it's the point I was making, that we had parties that came on with a platform of defending devolution that then went into the National Assembly and have lost that voice. We are lacking the leadership around at this very critical time when the country is facing a shutdown. We cannot stand by and allow the government to violate the Constitution, because one small violation, and it's not a small one, means that we are treating the Constitution, we then become a banana republic. Where are our protections? So I think there's a big need for a third, for alternative leadership, and that's why I like what the Third Way Alliance are doing. I'm very happy that the governors have hit the streets, and they better go down. I think the governors have been lacking the confidence of their own power, because the constituents are, you said there is one government. There are 48 governments, and 47 of them can actually, change the politics of, 23 or 24 of them can change the politics of this country. So out of this dysfunction, we pray that there will be leadership that is going to at least, provide a change, because this is not sustainable. This is a zero-sum game if we continue as we are going. And
I'm not 48 governments. Joe had alluded to about 3 national governments, and we are going to our final thoughts.